And so welcome to our global webinar on building global immunity with this really illustrious panel that we are excited to have and to share with you today. So it's our dear Gita Desai who's organized this and brought us together. And she is the filmmaker of a really extraordinary film called Ayurveda Unveiled. So Ayurveda Unveiled is the sponsor of this panel, and we want to thank them. Gita, as a filmmaker, will join us a little bit later. But let's go ahead and get started. We'll get started first with Dr. Madan, who is a genome biologist. His current primary research is in the development of a single DNA molecule and single cell techniques for genome analysis. He is currently the General Secretary of the European Ayurveda Association. It's a great honor to have you. Pranams, Dr. Madan. Madan, as a scientist, I wanted to ask you, how do you look at the simple measures that the Indic systems of well-being, such as yoga and Ayurveda, offer to us towards fighting infection and disease?
There is a lot that we can gain from the ancient sciences to not only understand where we are today with how we perceive the human system and life forms, but also where we need to go. And I wanted to raise two specific examples using the unfortunate health issues that the globe is facing today. If you look at a very simple thing like the respiratory system, you will find that the little beast that is troubling us, the virus, which has a size of about 300 nanometers, how does it get all the way from outside the body, all the way down to where it is causing problems around the world? And what is it challenged with? What is it getting over? And how does it establish an infection? When you go down this path, you suddenly see the human form has taken many millions of years to evolve to where it is. And over this period, it has faced all such challenges. So it's not the first time that the human form is facing this challenge. It's had to face with it, otherwise we wouldn't be where we are today if it didn't know how to fight these things. So it has learned, it has a natural intelligence within it that helps fend off these challenges. And clearly what we are seeing around us today is a breakdown in that natural process. Now, when we come into the ancient sciences, we find a lot of very exquisite descriptions of how to understand, using sometimes a different metaphor, how to understand this natural ability, the natural intelligence in the body. And when we come particularly into Ayurveda, there are very exquisite descriptions of what you have to do across the seasons, what you should eat, what you should drink, what you should do in the morning, what you should do over the seasons to enhance this natural intelligence and to keep it alive so that you are not exposed to the kind of challenges, or you can fend off the kind of challenges that you face. And I want to dwell a little bit on an aspect that is extremely well understood in Ayurveda, that of taste and the rasas. I want to go into two rasas, the sweet and the bitter. And when we look at these two rasas, and we look at it from the perspective of modern biology, you see the link between bitter taste, which are received on the cell surface by bitter receptors, and the intelligence that is there within the system on how bitter receptors trigger natural resistance in some of the cells, leading from the nostril all the way into the alveoli, the place where we get exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, when you suddenly stop and say, well, what else does the ancient knowledge have in terms of understanding better the prescriptions that are there in the ancient sciences? And also, what can we learn from the ancient sciences about what needs to be done to enhance the human system, the human immunity, and where it needs to go. You certainly see that the entire process of immunity and strengthening your immune system is mostly in an individual's own hands. You have complete control in how you prepare your body, improve the immune system with each passing day. And you say, well, what are the recommendations there? And how do I know what I need to do? You don't need to search far. You can find the answers to all of this in the text. So I don't know, Laura, if that kind of addresses a part of what you wanted me to say. I can go a little more into the finer details about the components of the cell, the mitochondria, which equates to concepts like Agni within Ayurveda.
Absolutely. Please do.
All the related concepts.
Please do.
Okay, so now, how can we drill this further? Are there other messages from the ancient sciences that help a modern biologist make sensible constructs that then lead on to sensible hypotheses, which we can start to experiment? And the one little story I want to say is about the mitochondria. And mitochondria are the powerhouses of cells. They reside there like bacteria or pathogens that have found a healthy home within our cells to give rise to what we are today. Now, if you look at the mitochondria and you look at the mitochondrial DNA, they have a separate lot of DNA within them. You will find that the mitochondrial DNA has its own dynamics, which is independent of the dynamics of the DNA that's found in the nucleus. So the mitochondrial DNA is about 17,000 base pairs long. And as you age, you start to see certain deletions in this 17,000 base pairs DNA. And these, for us in the biology area, we call them the common deletion. So the common deletion is a loss of about 4,500 base pairs of DNA. Now, what we know is that the common deletion is something that is related to age. As you start aging, every cell in your body starts to accumulate more and more of the deleted forms of DNA. But the mitochondria is very intelligent. It knows how to get rid of the deleted forms and maintain the highest level of integrity in that genetic information in the cell. Now, if you look at biology through the eyes of the mitochondria, you then find that every cell is unique. So Ayurveda says every individual is unique, but if you look at the individual through the eyes of mitochondria, then every cell takes on a kind of uniqueness. And that uniqueness is prone to aging. There is no escape, and we don't know why. Now, let us take a quick trip into your lungs. So as you go down the trachea, down to where the alveoli are, the finest cells of your lung, the place where you do this exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide, you start to see the alveolar cell, particularly the type 2 alveolar cell, which is the one that's open to abuse by this virus that's going around. But sitting behind the type 2 alveolar cell are a collection of immune cells. And they're called the lung resident immune cells. Okay. Now, at any one time, your lung has more immune cells than what you find in the blood at any one time. So your lung is a very precious organ, and it's protected by the immune system. Now, the data that is coming out of this ongoing COVID story is we see greater mortality in older people. It's very clear here as to what is happening. The immune system in the lung and the older people are fading out and may not be working well. what is it that you can, so the question that comes to a physician would be, why the statistic and what can you do to enhance the immune system of the lung? Ayurveda has many prescriptions, and I hope some of this will come out as we go through the participants over the day. I hope that answers some of your questions, Laura.
It answers many and opens up many more. So hopefully we'll be able to come back and ask some questions of you. Thank you very much, Dr. Madan. Beautiful. Thank you. Well, we'll go to Dr. Martina now. And Dr. Martina is likely to bring this into a practical expression. Dr. Martina is an Ayurvedic medical doctor and educator in Prague. She's the author of Ahara, a practical guide in Ayurveda, and In the Ayurvedic Kitchen. She was also the editor-in-chief of the academic journal Ayurveda, Journal of Health. She's also the founder of an Ayurvedic Gurukula in Europe, and it's a learning center where she's also created professional trainings for Ayurveda therapists. So let's see, are you unmuted?
I hope so.
You're welcome, Dr. Martina. Okay, I can hear you.
Hello.
So the first thing we wanted to ask you is that we are seeing a global pandemic of fear and anxiety. How does that affect our immune system?
Thank you for the question. I think it's really important, but let me start by greeting everyone with Sanskriti Bhadram Te, which means I greet all greatness and auspiciousness in you. Fear is real. We are in a collective crisis of unprecedented scale with which we have no prior experience with one as such. And what is happening is it's bringing up to surface all unnatural, dysfunctional, problematic, unnatural, weak spots in our lives, whether it is our relationships, families, jobs, or most importantly, in a relationship with ourselves. Whether people are experiencing different types of fears, fear of getting sick and dying, which is real, fear of their existence being threatened. How am I going to earn money? Where am I going to get food? Where am I going to live? Fear of isolation, which is real as well because we are isolated. Besides that, there are other emotions such as anger, frustration, depression, feeling of helplessness. And all of these are affecting our psychological immunity. Now, psychological immunity is a part of whole immunity, part of which is physical immunity that is created by right living, food, and all things that relate to it, as you will hear, I'm sure, from other panelists. But the psychological immunity is created by our digestion of sensory impressions, our thoughts, digestions of life experiences such as this one. Now, Ayurveda, you have heard fascinating facts from Madan. Ayurveda has also a profound, fascinating concept of immunity, which we can very simply put under word bala. Bala means strength, the ability to withstand, to resist, but also ability to adapt, which I think is extremely important in this situation. Just that you can imagine, I think you can picture your immune system or your immunity as a power bank or fully charged battery in your body that is ready to stand up to challenges that you are going through. Now, these challenges are modulated, simply said, through your autoimmune system, which means you have no control over the response to a degree. And there is sympatheticus and parasympatheticus. So sympatheticus, what it does, is the known fight or flight response. Fight means you are ready to go and fight your natural killer cells, and all the other immune system is getting ready. Flight means you put on your running shoes and run away as fast as possible as you can, meaning you use a lot of resources and you end up being drained. Your charged battery is used or empty. Next to it is the parasympatheticus. That is the natural inner wisdom that is looking for the best coping, most natural, most intelligent response that is within the resources of the body. And you have heard that before, but I think it's important to realize that we have the inner pharmacy, we have the inner intelligence, we have the inner doctor within us. We just need to create the right situation, support the body that it can do this type of work. The natural immunity, as we speak of which, is put on the word ojas, which is part substance and part consciousness, obviously. And ojas is a holder for tejas. You have heard of Agni, which is the inner fire. This is the ability to fight or to create a healing reaction. For example, to have a fever, which is the effort of the body to burn off the viruses or any other microorganisms. And next to it, you have a prana, or just as a holder for prana as well, which is the healing energy itself. You have already heard from Madan how important is prana. It's actually going through the respiratory system, and it is the key system in this particular infection we are facing. So, what are the ways to strengthen your immune system on the psychological part? And I want to give you some easy, simple things you can take home. You are home right now, so you can be with at home from this moment on. I have come up with 4 because the time is limited. Number 1, since we already in lots of stress, it's very wise to keep yourself as much comfortable as possible, but with natural, wholesome things. We don't want to add more stress because there's already enough. We want to make the system as functional, as optimal as possible. Number 2, positive thoughts are really important. Negative thoughts trigger the sympathicus fight or flight reaction. The positive thoughts trigger the parasympathicus. It can work as simply as when you're feeling down and you're thinking, oh, this is horrible, I cannot cope, which is very real, that you try to ask yourself and find yourself within your psyche and your intelligence. You ask yourself a question: what can I do to improve my situation? Is there anything I can do to make myself comfortable? Anything at this point. Third, connect with what is natural. This is extremely important. We have the 5 elements. So on the ether, it is thoughts. On the air, it's breath. It's breathing the fresh air outside and breathing pranayama and all other yogic and Ayurvedic techniques, they are there. It also means what you hear. So if you hear something in media that is disturbing you, just turn it off. Don't listen to it. Turn on some good, nice music. For fire, it's sun and your inner intelligence. For water, I'd like to mention the old technique of jalanati. Here is the pot. This is the irrigation of nasal passages. And it's extremely important because nose is the first gatekeeper of the immune system that has the ability to fence for itself and not let the microorganism viruses in for that particular matter. And for earth, it's food we eat, it's appreciating the nature, gardening. Spring is as its best right now, so anything of that matter. And the last, the 4th, what I would suggest is be creative. Creativity is our birthright. I think it's extremely important not to let this situation or any situation in our lives to take the creativity away. Maybe be creative with how you respond to this situation. Make decision, take action, realize that you are not a victim, that your body is strong, intelligent enough to find the answers. Help your body, help your mind. And maybe we can turn this situation into, I have tried to come up with a different meaning for COVID-19. C is for collective. O, opportunity. Vid is for vidya, to know, to understand, to see the truth. And 19, maybe 19 can be the 19 ways that you changed your life for the better, that you were inspired and inspired others, and you helped and contributed to the global well-being, because this is what we need. So with that, thank you, and Padram Te, truly, from the bottom of my heart.
Padam Tre. That's so beautiful. Thank you, Martina. And I just love that collective opportunity vidya, that reframing, so that it feels positive. It feels like something we can really embrace. Thank you. Can you in just maybe 30 seconds to a minute explain us a little bit more about the neti?
Sure. Here is one version of what you're using. What you're doing is you using lukewarm, salty water. Ideally, in the text is written that saltiness should be to your daily saltiness of the tears. So you just poke yourself, taste the saltiness, and then you create the same saltiness. This is really important so you don't aggravate the situation. And then what you do, there's a little technique that described elsewhere, which you can easily find. And you run the water through one nostril and then through the another nostril. And what it does, it creates the cilia, which is the, we can say, the carpet that is covering the nose opening, the nose passages, that has the ability to stop and filter what does not belong inside. And this is the most important part, because it prevents the rest of the respiratory system from unwanted cold air, particles in the air, smoke, as well as particles such as big or small viruses or any other pathogens that we don't want to come in. So this is a great aid to you, but on the mental level also, it's clearing your senses, it's clearing your mind. So it allows you to think clearly, to think positively, and to listen to your inner intelligence that will tell you what's the right thing for you to do.
Beautiful. Thank you for that great explanation. It's such an important practice for all of us, always,
Yes.
especially now. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that beautiful talk. Thank you, Dr. Martina.
My pleasure.
So next we have Dr. Suhas. Dr. Suhas is one of my early Ayurvedic teachers. He's a classically trained Ayurvedic physician with over 30 years of clinical experience. He's been traveling the globe popularizing Ayurveda. He's also a best-selling author of The Hot Belly Diet, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, which is a book I recommend all the time, The Art and Science of Vedic Counseling. Dr. Suhas is a consultant for the Chopra Center. He's the Dean of the Mount Madonna Institute and the Director of the Ayurvedic Healing Center with his wife, Dr. Manisha. And he is also leading other teachings and organizations in the field of yoga and Ayurveda. So welcome and pranams, Dr. Suhas.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Can we start by asking you how, in your book that's titled Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, how does regulating our daily routines affect immunity?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to talk about it. First of all, namaste to all of you. And I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Gita Ben for putting this wonderful event together. And I'm so honored to be a part of this wonderful group of experts around the world. Because one of the key things that Ayurveda actually talks about when we look at this situation that is in the world with COVID-19 and the coronavirus, it's an epidemic or a global pandemic, as would say. And there's a whole section in Ayurveda that actually talks about it. And one of the key findings in there is changes that we see in the collective consciousness of people, their minds, their lives, their mentality, is one of the main reasons for these global pandemics where there's a collective karma involved. And one of the best things that you can do, and the solution that they have suggested, is to to create a global uprising, to create a global upswell of positive emotions, bridging humanity, creating these connections. And this is exactly the reason why this concept of global immunity is so appealing. And that's the reason why I'm so happy to be a part of it and so happy to be here today. The question that you asked regarding time. Time is eternal, space and time is illusion that we all know from the Vedic times. But the fact of the matter is, since we live on this planet Earth, our Earth is moving at dizzying speed around the sun. And whether we like it or not, the days and nights are created. Every living organism is affected because of the rhythms. You talk about circadian rhythms, you talk about lunar rhythms, you talk about tidal rhythms, you talk about circadian rhythms, you talk about celestial rhythms. And I think Ayurveda is the only science that has actually talked about the impact of time on how human biology and the physiology behaves. The modern medical term is Chrono Biology. Chrono means time. Biology means how it affects us at a cellular level. And as Madan would put it, at a genetic level. And what we know from the latest discovery that the time is embedded in our genes. If you don't respect the law of time, you don't wake up at the right time, you don't go to bed at a proper time, you're literally violating these laws of nature. So the science is not what, but when. It's not what you eat, but when you eat. It's not how much exercise you get, but when you exercise. It's not how much sleep you get, but when you sleep. So the timing is so important. And I think Ayurveda, as we all know, that we all work in this field, is one of the most ancient and probably the most comprehensive system of healthcare that is known to humanity. The reason why it is so important is that all the new science that is coming out is simply validating and revalidating all the ancient concept of that Ayurveda that has been around for thousands and thousands of years, including this concept of time, including the importance of daily routine, what time you wake up, what time you go to sleep. And the simple rule is you start at sunrise and start unwinding at sunset. The nutrition is also solar nutrition. As the sun is waking up in the morning, the sunlight is very tender. So you should have a lighter breakfast. When the sun is prominent in the middle of the day, you should have the main meal of the day. When the sun is fading or setting in the evening, that time you should have again a lighter dinner. So if you are following a solar nutrition, you are very much safe. One of the challenges that we face during quarantine right now, and being a clinician talking to so many patients, even nowadays, is that people in quarantine almost have a license to eat whatever they want, sleep whenever they want, and create almost an abuse, which is completely different lifestyle than what you used to have when you were busy working. So I think during these times of quarantine, it's even more important to avoid unhealthy snacking, unwanted drinks, making sure you are able to fast in between the meals. Gentle fasting between breakfast to lunch is important. Having an early dinner and not eating anything till breakfast is very important. Fasting, a gentle amount of fasting, in Ayurveda we call it as upavas, is one of the best things that you can do to actually boost your immunity. And I think Ayurveda was probably the first science that actually talked and understood. And I heard what Madanji was talking about. It's literally music to my ears, because even though we think that this is in the lungs, but what affects the lungs is from the gut. And in your digestive system, where your enteric nervous system as well as your central nervous system is literally talking to each other. ENS and CNS, they communicate with each other and they hinge together with the immune system. And what we know and what Martina ji was saying is that immune system and central nervous system talk to each other all the time. They listen and they eavesdrop on each other's communication. So anything that is going on with your immunity is going to affect the way your brain is going to behave and make decisions. So improving Agni, kindling your Agni is such an important aspect. And one of the best way to kindle Agni is to eat less, eat right, and become bright. As simple as that. If you're eating right kind of food in the right amount and eating less than what you need, I think you're going to live healthier, longer, and happier. And this not only applies to during this time where we talk about immunity, it's a general term. In Ayurveda, there's a term that we use called as Vyadhi Kshamatva. Vyadhi means disease. Kshamatva means your ability to resist a disease. And there are two kinds of immunity that we talk about from an Ayurvedic perspective. One is called as a natural immunity that you inherit from your parents. And you can't choose your parent, but that's what you get. But the second thing that what you can do is what is called as adaptive or acquired immunity. What you do on an everyday basis since you wake up in the morning till you go to bed is something that is going to helping you to boost your acquired immunity. And I think diet, sleep, and exercise, these are the three pillars. Number one, as we talk about diet, eating rainbow-colored foods, and what Motherji was saying is rainbow-colored foods and the vegetables which contains all the abundance of the taste and flavors. Bitter taste, bitter and astringent taste. Astringency dries out the mucus. Bitter is one of the best blood cleansing tests that you can have. I think even the recent festival that we had in India with the spring equinox or the spring change that we talked about, it's a ritual to eat neem leaves. Bitter neem leaves is a tradition to have during those times. So I think the concept of seasonal change is so clearly explained in Ayurveda that actually talks about that your body is caught a bit off guard. So doing a cleanse during this time is the best way to reset the system and boost your immunity. So there are 2 dates in the calendar. We talk about spring equinox and the fall equinox. If you're able to reduce the food intake, drink and hydrate a lot of hot water, herbal teas, freshly squeezed vegetable juices, you should be able to do a reset. And purging, eliminating impurities, having a good, well-formed bowel movement is something so important that Ayurveda gives a lot of value to. And making sure that you're having a good, well-formed bowel movement that is happening every day. If you need help, you can take some Triphala every evening. It's important to have a high-fiber diet, which is coming mostly from fruits and vegetables and a plant-based diet. Another important concept on this is what you do on an everyday basis. Oleation, lubrication, keeping all the sensory passages moist and well lubricated is absolutely necessary, because putting few drops of sesame oil in your nostrils, in your ears, even lubricating your eyes, doing oil pulling for your mouth, because oleation is something which is going to prevent any dehydration, any dryness, which is the perfect situation for a bug or a virus to flourish and get attached to the system itself. And the age-old Ayurvedic concept is dryness, dehydration is aging. And softening up, lubricating, moisturizing is reversal of aging. As simple as that. If you're drinking the right kind of water, if you're lubricating and keeping it everything soft, supple, flexible, boosting your internal enzymatic activity, boosting your hormonal activity, even an everyday oil massage. It's a part of your everyday routine, but doing an oil massage releases so many neurohormones and neurotransmitters in the skin that boost your immunity. So these techniques are not only validated by the modern science, but this should be a part of your everyday routine. We used to think that sleep is something that you do when you have nothing else to do. But now the science is telling us that this is one of the most anti-inflammatory activity that you will ever do. So going to bed at a proper time is so important, making sure that you get enough sleep. And we all know that a good day begins the night before. So if you're eating, digesting the right food, you are having a well-formed bowel movement when you wake up next day morning, you're feeling active and energetic next day morning. These are all simple tools that Ayurveda has talked about for ages together. Exercise is something that you cannot do when you're not able to leave your home and stuff like that. But within the house itself, you can easily do a few rounds of sun salutation. Warming up and improving the circulation is so important. Another important aspect is creating heat in the body, which is raising the core temperature, which is allowing you to facilitate sweating. So a gentle amount of sweat or cardio, whether you do jumping jacks, whether you do jump rope, whether you do brisk sun salutations, whatever is going to get that circulation flowing is releasing the heat, is releasing the inflammation, is going to cool down the temperature, allowing you to relax. And as Martina ji was saying, that it's going to reset your mental ability to discipline yourself. At the end of the day, it is very important to be a custodian of your own health and well-being. And there's no excuse for time now. We are all stuck, and we are able to find time to meditate, find time to do the oil massage, find time to do the neti and the nasya. So I think we might as well utilize this time to cultivate some positive, healthy habits. These habits are going to train us not only once we come out of the quarantine, but it's going to create a wonderful, robust immunity and a degree of peace and health and happiness in almost every area of life. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Wow, well, that was very packed. Thank you for that wonderful teaching with lots and lots of ideas for us and lots of practical ways to use this time. I think that's so, so beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you. So Dr. Christian is next. Dr. Christian is a research coordinator and physician in integrative medicine in Berlin. He integrates Ayurveda actively in his medical consultations with the goal to scientifically advance traditional Indian medicine in Europe, particularly in the medical field. Dr. Kessler is the author of many research publications on Ayurveda. Dr. Kessler, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you all very much for joining, and to the panelists, particularly to Gita for having had the idea to organize such a wonderful webinar. Eating and drinking are the most important aspect that I would like to address is regularity and rhythm related to your eating patterns. Try not to snack too much. Try to adhere to 2-3 meals. Eat light, eat warm, eat well spiced. Try to have your main meal at lunchtime, and in between try to have a lot of hot water, ginger water, or spiced water, or unsweetened herbal infusions, and try to bring a lot of warmth and metabolism enhancing aspects into your nutrition and into your eating and drinking patterns. Try to sleep long, restful, and very important for you, and a very important fact. Your immune system, resilience capacities up. So sleep is something very important to consider, particularly because a lot of people do not sleep well under the current circumstances. So try to enhance a good sleep quality. And last but not least, be humorous and laugh a lot. We know from research over the last years and decades that a good sense of humor and happiness and laughing, may that be by yourself or with others, secretly, openly, is a very relevant factor for keeping up an effective immune system. So these issues are probably those that I would like to center around, and that's probably all I have to say for today. And thank you very much for having invited me and for listening, all of you who are listening right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Christian. I think for some of us, it was a little difficult to hear. Thank you for everyone who did have difficulty in hearing. Just we hope that you got the gist of what he was saying, especially what he was saying about love and laughter to keep our spirits up. That was very, very beautiful. And thank you, Christian. So I've been asked to speak about spices, and I'm going to try to keep it very, very brief so we can catch up with time. But I wanted to start by just asking you if you even knew how powerful spices are. And did you know that spices can have up to 50 times the antioxidants of even your favorite fruits? So a lot of us think of spices as food flavoring, and they can be delicious food flavoring. But in Ayurveda, we also think of spices as medicine. And I personally think of food and spices and all that we take in, this ahara of food, all that we take in this way, as really a way that nature is reaching out to love us. I just want to back up for a second. As you've been hearing, Ayurveda can be a very complex and very sophisticated science. Ayurveda is a science of personalized medicine, and we address each individual, and as Dr. Madan said in the beginning, each individual cell even, individually. And that means if there's 7 billion people in the world, there's potentially 7 billion protocols for healing. And that's a very complex science, therefore. But it is based on these very simple principles that if we harmonize with nature, nature is generative and regenerative. And not only that, but we are nature. And we can forget that a lot. But we are nature. It's one thing I love about what Christian said, is that for us to be in nature, if we can get outside, to be in nature, that itself can be very healing. That itself can calm the nervous system. That itself can calm the busy, anxious mind. Nature itself is healing, and that is the fundamental principle in Ayurveda. And so when we, let's say this is this beautiful ginger, which I feel like looks like a glove or a hand reaching out to embrace us in healing medicine, when we actually have a relationship with the food that we eat, we automatically in that relationship itself are beginning a healing practice. I love too what Dr. Madan said about, and Dr. Marti, I think, said it too. It's with these sensory organs that the healing begins. It begins right there before it even enters into our body, just as it's beginning to enter. So I wanted to talk to you first about ginger and to pick up on what both Dr. Suhas and Dr. Christian said, which is to sip hot water all day long. If you can sip hot water all day long, it's so key to Ayurveda, and it's so key to springtime. And I've been hearing it over and over and over again for all the years that I've been involved in Ayurveda. And now I'm hearing it over and over from people who are talking about what you can do to strengthen immunity during the COVID-19 crisis. So sipping hot water all day long, and that means we don't just take a glass and chug it down and try to get our 8 glasses of 8 ounces in, but that all day long we sip. And if you need to, you can set an alarm and maybe you sip every 15 minutes. Because that way you're going to help to lubricate the tissues. That way you help to melt the mucus. And that way you're going to help to purify and detoxify the body. A great thing to do while you're sipping hot water is actually to boil up that hot water and take a knob of ginger. And you don't even have to peel it. You just grate it straight into the boiling water. And so you're going to make ginger water. Then, of course, you'll boil it up for 10 minutes or so, strain it, and then put that into a thermos to keep the water hot. And take that with you wherever you go throughout your house all day long. Ginger is excellent because it stimulates Agni, the fire that Dr. Marti talked about. It promotes digestion. It helps with the elimination of natural toxins. It's anti-inflammatory. That's why it helps with the joints. It also helps to relieve pain. It helps as a healthy expectorant. So it's really great to promote lung health and to help remove excess kapha or mucus from the lungs. It promotes healthy circulation. It helps promote healthy vasodilation, and it can help even promote a little bit of gentle perspiration to release toxins and to help get the body and the prana moving throughout your body and your circulatory system. So ginger is my number one recommendation for you. Ginger lemon tea is what I've been recommending to my mother, who came down with some symptoms, and she spent her days not only sipping ginger lemon tea, but also gargling with salt water where she added some ginger powder to it. So she gargled every morning with that, with some little bit of ginger, and then sipped throughout the day the ginger. You can also chop the ginger and add it to your food. Can't say enough about ginger. The second one I wanted to recommend is turmeric. Just basic spices that you probably have in your pantry. If you've got fresh ginger and fresh turmeric, all the better. But if you only have it in powdered form, still it's important to use it. So when I make ghee, I add turmeric to the ghee. When I saute or cook food, I add turmeric. Add turmeric to everything. Turmeric cleanses the blood. Dr. Suhas talked about the importance of cleansing the blood. And that helps to promote healthy skin and obviously a system all around. It helps promote all of our systems. It helps to strengthen digestion, promoting healthy intestinal flora and good digestion. Ultimately, it was said already that ojas is our word for the immune system. And one of the definitions, one of the ways we describe ojas is we say it's the end product of healthy digestion and healthy metabolism. So from the moment the food goes into our mouths to the moment it gets to the final tissues, it's that final product at the very, very end that gives us ojas, or good immunity. And so when we have good digestion, good metabolism, that will help to produce strong immunity, strong ojas. Turmeric is excellent for brain health. It's excellent to help ease pain. Above all, it helps to ease and reduce inflammation. So it's a purifying spice. And from the Institut Pasteur there in Paris, it's shown that curcumin, which is that primary ingredient of turmeric, it's been shown to inhibit virus infection by inhibiting cell binding and by inhibiting replication of the virus in human cells. So it can be a really excellent defense as an early step in viral infections. Finally, I want to recommend Tulsi. Tulsi is an herb. Tulsi is said to be very purifying. It's put in front of a home to purify the space so that only pure energy comes into the home. And it's purifying, reducing, again, kapha or congestion, mucus from the lungs, helping to strengthen our lungs and their defense. Helps to clear the upper respiratory tract in general, promoting clear and comfortable breathing. So optimal function of the lungs, purifying to the tissues in the body. And it's also said to, as we've been talking so much about, heighten awareness, calm the nervous system, reducing cortisol, so reducing our stress, and helping the body, as an adaptogen, helping the body handle the stress of the moment. It also brings a little bit of warmth and nourishment to the thoracic cavity, again, also aiding in digestion. There's others I can recommend: cinnamon, black pepper, even what I like to do is I like to put maybe some ginger with some honey, or adding a little bit of honey to the ginger tea once it's cooled down enough. Honey itself is a pungent. It tastes sweet to the tongue, but pungent action on the body, meaning heating and drying as well. So honey is also a great adjuvant or a great carrier for these spices and their medicine. And finally, clove is a great, powerful antimicrobial, antifungal, and possibly an antiviral. It's excellent also as a pain reliever. And so it's an excellent natural alternative to the medicine cabinet. Honey is a great adjuvant, it's a great anupan, but we don't want to cook honey, so make sure that you only add honey after things have cooled to sipping temperature. Also, I just wanted to say as an alternative, if you have aromatic herbs, now it's spring, these herbs are coming up in our gardens or at the kitchen windowsill. Oregano is very, very heating, really excellent right now. Thyme, rosemary, basil, parsley is very bitter. So we really want to be including a lot of bitters in our food now in springtime. And we want to be including those pungent herbs as well. So you can make a tea out of those green herbs, whatever you've got, whatever you can get your hands on, whatever is close. And you can make a tea out of those too. You can also use those in your cooking as well. The key here is to use a lot of spice, to use whether it's spices or herbs, to really use those heating spices right now to help keep your inner Agni, your inner fire, strong, so that you will digest your food properly and produce that good ojas that'll keep your immunity strong. Okay? Hope that's helpful. Wonderful. So let's moving on. Let's go to our next guest, who is, let me go back to my notes. Our next guest is Mark Rosenberg, who's a pioneer in teaching yoga and Vedic sciences in Europe. In 1993, Mark founded what has become the leading educational institute for Ayurveda in Europe, where he has also set up the first university-based study program for Ayurveda in Europe, that leads to a Master's of Science degree, and that's in cooperation with Middlesex University in London. Mark has also created one of the first official Ayurveda training programs for doctors. So welcome, Mark. Can you tell us a little bit about this cross-training of doctors and how the Ayurveda helps to enhance their healing capacities in helping take health to greater levels?
Thanks to Gita for arranging this meeting. Well, see, I mean, to teach Ayurveda is a great pleasure, and having built up an institute where my whole life is connected with Ayurveda and yoga is really fantastic. And you see the change that happens within students, and of course in every student, and also in every doctor who is a student. We have many thousands of students, and some of them are doctors. There's special doctors training, but the change that happens within everybody is actually the same. So it is the change of thinking that happens when you start to get connected with the Ayurvedic wisdom. you move away from a symptom-based thinking, how to find the right pill. You start to think holistically about your own body, about understanding your whole personality as something unique, and where body and our soul and our mind is connected. And sometimes a doctor moves into a technical area, or he feels that something is missing in his techniques, in his understanding for helping persons and helping patients. And he finds Ayurveda and feels, here I really can come back to this real sense of my profession, really helping people in a holistic context, and to really understand and give them back understanding for their healthy living and how to improve and enhance immunity, as this is one of the aspects which are important for today. Right, but at the end, it's all about understanding life, and it's all about to trust into our Creator, that He has really made us and created us in such a wonderful way. And especially today, I think we should not lose this trust. And it is there that we all have our inner healer within us, and with Ayurveda we understand the connection between the outer world and our inner world. And this is another teaching that, of course, is always part of Ayurveda.
Thank you for putting such a positive spin on it. Thank you, Mark. So our final panelist is Candace Padgett. In 1990, she and her husband Roger built the Raj, which is a 50-room in-residence health clinic in Fairfield, Iowa, where they were pioneering the use of Ayurvedic medicine in North America. It's not too long ago, 1990, and yet definitely those were the very early days for Ayurveda in North America. Candace has been a teacher of transcendental meditation for more than 40 years, and she's in an administrative role in that international organization. So welcome, Candace.
Nature, or the universe, is absolutely for us. We don't live in a hostile universe. We live in a universe that's absolutely for us. And what we come to appreciate, and it's such a tenet of Ayurveda, is that change is really the tool of the force of evolution. And sometimes change may seem disruptive, or it may seem unfortunate, but embedded in change is always the opportunity to become more of who we can become, not only as an individual, but as a society, as a global family. And I completely agree that right now there are some incredible opportunities on every single one of those levels. And I just appreciate so much the way this has been such a highlighted component of this panel discussion. I want to speak just a little bit from the perspective that we have had as administrators of this clinic. We've been involved with bringing Ayurveda, and in particular the treatments of Panchakarma, one other aspect of Ayurveda. And what we see, it's so interesting because probably 10,000 people have come through our clinic in the past 30 years, and we just see a stream of chronic disorders. And what this means is there is an epidemic of compromised immune systems right now. 60% of Americans have chronic disorders, and most of them are addressing this with pharmaceutical drugs. Now, pharmaceutical drugs, they have their roots in botanicals for the most part. They're plant-based. But what happens is they extract the active ingredients from those plants, and then they chemically reproduce those active ingredients. And they remove those active ingredients from the synergistic wholeness or intelligence of that plant. And there are many other components that are working in conjunction with the active ingredient that create healing properties. So when we remove that from its environment of synergistic components, when we take the active ingredient out of a plant, we lose some of the intelligence of nature. And then when we chemically reproduce it once again, we lose that intelligence of nature that resonates so beautifully with our own inner healing intelligence. And we end up with the ability to address symptoms, but with harmful side effects. So this is the concern, because we can address the pain of arthritis with pharmaceuticals, but then we end up damaging the liver, and there we have another chronic disorder to deal with. So what we appreciate, as we've witnessed over these years, is that these cleansing treatments, and Suhas and others were referring to the importance of cleansing the toxins that accumulate in the body, because what they do is they interfere with the healing intelligence in the physiology. So whether it's environmental toxins, toxins produced by our own negative attitudes and feelings, toxins produced by incomplete digestion, as Laura was just saying, it's ojas that gets produced, that fine substance that deeply nourishes the tissues when digestion is strong and proper. But when digestion isn't, it produces a gummy, sticky substance that the body considers to be a toxin. It gets wedged in the joints. That's where we start getting stiff and painful, and it complicates and interferes with the communication among the cells in the body. And this in turn compromises our immune system in a big way. And by the way, as we're focusing on immune system, the digestive system is an integral part of the immune system. So we see how these two things are mutually supportive and need to be. Digestion needs to support immunity. So with the Panchakarma treatments, the treatments that we offer at our clinic, it's pulling all those toxins out. It's rebalancing the natural functioning and intelligence in the body. But what I want, and so this gives you everyone a great jump start. It's a fabulous prevention treatment. It's a great treatment for addressing chronic disorder. And it gives people kind of a jump on handling their chronic disorders. But coming back to what everyone has said on this panel, the real power, the real healer is what we do every single day. Not just for a week because there's a scary virus out there and we scrambled to do some good things. As everyone's saying, this quarantine is an opportunity to now get into a regular habit, regular routine, incorporating all these beautiful suggestions, powerful suggestions, and yet so simple. This is the gift of Ayurveda. It allows us to basically take our health and happiness back into our own hands. And when we hear our medical doctors like Dr. Madden and Dr. Martina and Dr. Christian, and when we hear them explaining to us from the perspective of Western medicine how profound and sophisticated this ancient system of medicine is, it gives us a lot of confidence. There's a lot of misunderstanding out there about the immune system because of autoimmune diseases where the immune system has been known to turn around and attack the body instead of the unhealthy pathogens that it would otherwise be getting rid of and taking care of for us. But this only occurs when there are major imbalances and toxins that are blocking the flow of the healing intelligence of the body. And once again, those imbalances are often associated with unhealthy lifestyle choices. Meditation is a very important tool for calming the mind down, allowing the mind to settle down to more profound levels and more quiet levels of the thinking mind, where we can begin to gain that bigger, broader perspective that keeps all of the challenging situations in our life in proper perspective.
Beautiful, Candace. Thank you so much. Thank you for mentioning how fortunate and blessed we are that Ayurveda has proceeded from the Himalayas and India down the streams to the entire world. And that reminds me that we all want to really be so thankful to all of our teachers and all the great sages who so generously have shared this genius science. Thank you for reminding us that Ayurveda is such an empowering science, empowering individuals not to give away their health, but to make choices to strengthen their own health. And thank you for reminding us of the power of meditation. Maybe we can ask that we do a whole other webinar simply on that, on the mind and the immune system.
Right.
Because, right, consciousness proceeds into the human being through the nervous system, and consciousness is the healer. So it's so much in Ayurveda does speak to how the mind can be the source of our suffering and our ill health. Thank you for that. So thank you, everyone. We are going to do some Q&A now, but first I'd like to introduce Gita. Gita Desai is the woman who's brought us all together in the first place. She is the filmmaker who's made Ayurveda Unveiled as her third in the trilogy. She also did a film, Raga Unveiled, Yoga Unveiled. The Unveiled series are documentary films, multi-houred films, and particularly the Ayurveda Unveiled film is like a satsang. It's not only so enlightening, so informative in a beautiful way, but really it feels like you get sort of a divine transmission as you watch it. So I highly recommend this film. Gita is here with us now, and she will be moderating the Q&A. So Gita, thank you. Thanks for bringing us together and for organizing this webinar.
Thank you, Laura, for taking on this program. Laura Plum wears many hats: a best-selling author, an Ayurvedic practitioner, a television host, and above all, I feel her program that she offers to train people in Ayurvedic integrative nutrition is a unique one. So thank you, Laura. You had a very difficult job today and you did it wonderfully. A moderator for so many panelists is not an easy task. Thank you. And thank you to all the panelists, to all the attendees. We have people from all over the world listening to us today. And I just want to very quickly acknowledge that World Health Day was a launch to speak about something very positive. And I thought of the idea of throwing more light on a very positive, strong gift that we have from the Creator, which is the immune system. And I think the panelists have done their share, so I would not like to add anything more to it. There was wonderful information, and I hope we all go very empowered and take responsibility and live as they have suggested. We will have all the information on the website if you want to refer to them. And if anybody has missed this webinar, it has been recorded, and we will have it on YouTube as well. So with this, we have collected a few questions, and we can refer them to different panelists. But there's one that is quite telling. And this lady has mentioned that the question says, let me read it out if you don't mind. The question says, how do we unhook ourselves from the claws of the marketing giants? For example, the alcohol industry in the US has been named as an essential during the pandemic. Sales have shot up by a staggering 55%. I was shocked to see this, according to the Associated Press. At the same time, alcohol is known to be an immunosuppressant. So who is on our side? Please help. I'm surrounded by people who love to drink. So who would like to take this question? Dr. Suhas, or how do we control, how do we unhook ourselves from hankering and the marketing machines?
I understand, and I think it's a pretty logical question that people would like to go for an unhealthy lifestyle, but the challenge is nobody wants to be unhealthy. Nobody wants to lead a poor lifestyle. I think the root cause why people smoke and drink and eat bad foods is they are unhappy. And as Candace so articulately pointed out, meditation is the first step towards finding your own inner peace and balance. That's the only way. We can tell so many people to do this and to do that and stay away from that until and unless they're able to invoke that inner intelligence which tells them to be connected with their own self, that what is right for you and what doesn't feel right for you. That connective quality, in medicine we call this interoceptive awareness, that your body is aware that after eating this food, after doing this thing, how do I feel? And the moment they are able to tap into that, they're able to not only cultivate this mindfulness-based awareness, what is right and what is wrong, but they're able to steer themselves away from staying away from something unhealthy and keep on doing something which is good for them and right for them. And I think that is so important, because what we're talking about is it doesn't really cultivate only a spiritual outlook toward life, but it creates what we call it as dispassionate detachment. The Sanskrit word for that is vairagya. So when you are so connected and so objectively connected with certain things and certain food, and when you step back and distance yourself by looking at certain things, that's when you're able to make choices. That's how you feel empowered. And I think this is an important part. No matter who is selling what, or what kind of news or what kind of channels we are watching, until and unless you're connecting to your own self and trying to tap into that experience to separate the trash from what is whole, I think that is the key. And one of the silver lining that is happening with this chaos that we are having is, I think people are going to go back to their individual health and well-being. They are going to feel more empowered, and they're going to suddenly realize that the government cannot take care of everyone. And I think the pressure that we have put on the whole medical system is forcing us to go back to our individual health. And I think this is the best takeaway point.
So Dr. Suhas is, or all the doctors here, is alcohol an immunosuppressant?
May I?
It is.
Yeah.
From an Ayurvedic perspective, we say that the ojas qualities and the qualities of alcohol is totally opposite to each other. So mada, which is alcohol, and the quality of ojas, all the 10 qualities are perfectly opposite to each other. Anyone who is going to drink alcohol is going to suppress and weaken their ojas further.
Martina, you had something to say?
Yeah, I think it's also important to realize that stressful times force people into stressful reactions. It's a natural reaction. One is looking to help oneself, and we either do it in a healthy way or not healthy way. So what's common to people who choose alcohol to help themselves is that they are looking for sweetness, because alcohol is metabolized as sugar in the body. So when I work with these people, what we always look at is not to directly fight the alcohol habit, because if were they capable to do it, they would do it. But what we are trying to see is, are there any sources of sweetness, of comfort, of what they are getting through alcohol? Can they get it through some other way? There is, in Ayurvedic psychology, there is an approach called Pratipaksha Bhavanam, which means replacing one habit that's not good by less than harmful or more supportive habit. And if they can come to meditation, if they meditate and their mind changes and it stops the alcohol habit, that's wonderful. But if they can't, then there are other ways to make any change that supports the natural way of their being, that will bring them more in line with the true in themselves and will help them to have choices that are more healthy. And that goes for alcohol or any other addictions that we have, mental ones as well.
It's a beautiful point, Martina, because really every desire is motivated for more happiness.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants only more happiness. It's just, it's what's the saying, looking for love in all the wrong places. It's when you begin to choose those things which aren't life supporting, they give you something in the moment. And that's why, as Vaidya Suhas was saying, it's when you can find that inner happiness, that abiding inner happiness that's not moved by the surface circumstances, which is what basically the goal of meditation is, then in essence, you've fulfilled the goal of every desire. So you've really fulfilled every desire. And it's on that ground that it's so much easier to begin to make these right choices. So great
Thank you.
point.
Thank you. So I know we've extended our time beyond what we had planned. So just a quick recap is that irrespective of the pandemic, we would all agree after hearing everybody's take on immunity, beyond the pandemic, the immune system is a balanced immune system that is taken care of by our daily actions and non-actions towards bad things, is going to be there forever. So whether there's a pandemic or not, we should look at it very, very carefully and protect it and nurture it forever, because this bad times will pass, but immunity has to be intact, strong, and we have to be resilient because we don't know what's coming. It could be small infections, microbes, diseases, but it's a great we've thrown light on a very, very important system of our physiology, which people have forgotten that it's there. These are our soldiers. This is an army for a country. We have to keep the soldiers strong. We have to keep the soldiers clean, rested, well-fed, and they will work for us. They will valiantly fight for us, whether there is a pandemic or any kind of attack. So thank you all for really contributing towards this wonderful event. And for the questions that were unanswered, we will continue our conversation on the trilogy unveiled.com, and we will definitely address them. So thank you again, and thank you, Laura, for a wonderful job in moderating this event. I think we're going to leave you with a teaser of my film, Ayurveda Unveiled. I'm sure a lot of you want to expand your knowledge about Ayurveda, and this is a wonderful resource. So I sincerely hope you buy it and use it. It's a 5-hour documentary, a very comprehensive work on Ayurveda. And until we meet again, thank you again, and we will...
That edge of recorded time, when men and gods merged and walked the lands of ancient India, reveals a remarkably mature civilization. Collectively, they strived to examine and uplift human well-being from every angle.
Ayurveda is one of the most ancient and most comprehensive system of healthcare that is known to humanity.
We are talking about Ayurveda as a science of enhancing life. This needs a very comprehensive approach.
So Ayurveda gives the details of how to do this.
Ayurveda takes us from simple things like diet, lifestyle, daily routine, emotional interactions, slowly and very gently to a deeper understanding of the self.
The teaching genius of the sages devised daily routines called Dinacharya, one of the single most powerful Ayurvedic tools for maintenance of health and well-being.
So what we feel, what we think, what we live is reflected in our body.
It has such detailed explanations of effects of every single food item imaginable.
These are the common spices used in Ayurvedic cooking. These spices alter the quality of the food.
The food may not be the problem at all, but how we're consuming the food, how we're living while we're eating this food.
Actually, the most important thing is how is your digestive fire working? How strong is your Agni?
It doesn't just look at the structure or the chemistry of the physical body, but the internal and holistic unitary life force behind it, which is called prana.
This life force itself as a universal power which sustains the material world.
What you exhale, the tree is inhaling. What the tree exhales, you are inhaling. If this alignment happens consciously, this will lead to a phenomenal sense of well-being within you.
India's sages derived a bedrock of insights, upon which Ayurveda and all Indic knowledge systems were built.
Yoga and Ayurveda, they have their origin in the supreme knowledge of the self.
Chad riya
Within the human body, the 5 elements manifest as the Tridosha, or the 3 organizational patterns.
The more self-knowledge we have about how we are put together as cells, that will benefit us substantially.
Health is the dynamic balance between the essence and the waste in the system.
You have to strengthen that equilibrium. Your sleep, diet. The bulk of Ayurveda is wellness.
Our bodies mirror within all that's in the outer world. Nothing is exempt from this total embrace.
In Ayurveda, the focus is on what is at the root of all of this. Why is this happening?
Some patients of rheumatoid arthritis might get one herbal preparation and some might get another one.
It could also be a touch, a thought, a sound, and it could also be a light.
That's what Vedic medicine is. It's spirit-based.
Ayurveda is trans-scientific, that it accepts the methods of science but also goes beyond it.
Having validation through measurement and precision with the modern tools that we have, all this will help in creating a better framework for understanding biological correlates in Ayurveda and Yoga.
Every time you see a patient or a client, you educate them about themselves.
Empower your patients to be their own doctors.
And so you're generating a lot of counter momentum from all these different ways, and you're doing it much faster and much, much, much safer.
When they start doing what they always wanted to do, the cells began to feel themselves in a place where they were naturally supposed to be.
So that's healing.
It is not about prevention and cure, it's about making the body work at its best.
Pure, unbounded intelligence provides the blueprint for the proper functioning of the whole physiology.
The state of perfect balance, wholeness, harmony. And that is the basis of Ayurveda.
You say yes to life, you say yes to things that are supportive of you. And there is inner intelligence within you that is universal that will show you what is right for you.
Which is the wisdom which resides within each one of us. This is something that should not be forgotten.
And so it is with Ayurveda. Harmony within and without.